Now that Eric Swalwell is completely imploded in California, this open seat for governor is up for grabs. So we've got a fresh poll out here from Emerson, the first one since Swalwell took the exit. We'll come back to that in a couple of minutes, but let's see what's actually going on here in this race. Well, first of all, the primary is coming up in early June. And remember, it gets a little bit tricky. This state uses the top two jungle primary. That means every candidate, regardless of party, is on the same ballot. Whichever two get the highest, they're going to face off in the general. So Republicans have kind of a far-fetched idea that two of them could make it to the general and shut out the Dems. Not impossible, but I think it would be very unlikely. If Democrats saw that coming, I think they would make some adjustments. So this whole race is fluid, but look at all these Democrats in the race. It's completely packed, and 90% of these candidates, they're not going to do anything. So we're not going to go through them all, but one thing to point out here is we've actually got Barack Obama in this race. That's right, Barack Obama Shaw. So usually California governor's races draw in a whole bunch of different types of candidates. You might remember during the Gray Davis recall in 2003, that ballot was completely loaded, and that was the one where Arnold Schwarzenegger pulled it out. So right now, the frontrunner for the Dems might be Tom Steyer. He's the environmentalist, the billionaire hedge fund manager. He ran for president in 2020. He didn't do anything. But this is the guy that could actually be the next governor as of right now. But he's going to be progressive. A lot of people might consider him to be too far left. But it's California. He could absolutely win. The thing about Steyer is he's got a ton of his own money. So as much as he might want to implement policies that target the rich, right now he's going to try to use his wealth to his advantage to become the next governor. So keep your eye on Steyer. He's kind of an outsider. We'll see if the other candidates, the more establishment ones, try to gang up on him. So after that, if we go down here, we've got the Republicans. Now there's only two notable ones in here, and they're both actually kind of at the top of the list. One of them is Chad Bianco, Riverside County Sheriff. The other one here is Steve Hilton. Now Hilton is a former Fox News personality, but he recently got the Trump endorsement, and it is California, not a Trump-friendly state, but there are a lot of Republicans here. That could easily be enough to secure Hilton one of the top two spots. Now something about Hilton here, his running mate for lieutenant governor is Gloria Romero. I have no idea if she's a good pick or not. However, she was a Democrat up until about a year and a half ago. So in a lot of states that might be a liability, but in California it's more liberal. Republicans got to do anything they can to try to be competitive. So even though lieutenant governor is usually inconsequential, that could be a small boost for Hilton. After all this, we've got a ton of endorsements, and remember Eric Swalwell, pretty much all of his got rescinded. And that is pretty shocking because Swalwell was kind of the front runner. He wasn't guaranteed to win, but he was looking pretty good. And for me, I always thought he was kind of an awkward candidate. I didn't really think he'd be that relatable to most voters. Turns out now he might not only be not relatable, but a lot of people think he's pretty much a monster. We've also got declined to endorse here. Both the two major political parties of the state. I think in the general election, that's going to change. But I think with the Republicans, both Bianco, neither of them got above the threshold to win their support. So then we've got debates here. And pretty much everything that happened prior to Swalwell dropping out is kind of irrelevant. There is one coming up on the 22nd. So that's a big deal because now there's a vacuum with Swalwell's support. The lower tier candidates, they see an opening. They want to make a name for themselves. So that's going to be a pretty big debate. Now let's take a look at the polling. And again, almost everything prior to Swalwell dropping out is kind of irrelevant. So you can see here in the aggregate, Steve Hilton, the Republican, was ahead by 3.3, but he wasn't even at 20%. So now we've got this new poll here from Emerson. Steve Hilton does lead with 17%. Second place is Chad Bianco and Tom Steyer tied with 14. But take a look at this number at the right, 23%. About a quarter are undecided. So there could be a lot of movement here over the next few weeks. And even though in theory it looks like two Republicans could make it to the general election, I think if Democrats saw that as a real risk, there would be a lot of pressure and a consolidation around one candidate as the primary got a little bit closer. I don't think they want to risk being locked out of the general. And even if a Republican won, they'd be facing a hostile legislature and they could be subject to a recall. So let's actually go back to that poll here from Emerson. So let's see what the changes have been. The left bar are the recent polls. The right one is from today. And Steve Hilton has kind of maintained his support at about 17%. Chad Bianco also similar. He was at only 4% when he debuted. Now he's up to 14. Katie Porter, remember her? She sank from 16 down to 10, but she did go up a couple of points. She seemed like she could easily be one of the front runners, maybe about 6 to 8 months ago. But I think her personality and some of her actions are just viewed as a little bit too unstable or a little bit too wild. So she took a big hit, especially after that interview she did about trying to win over Trump supporters. Now Javier Becerra, he's the guy who's gone up a ton, 3% up to 10. He's the former attorney general of the state and looks like he's actually coming back. So keep your eye on him. We've also got San Jose Mayor here, Matt Mahan. He's at 5%. Let's also see if he does anything. The other candidates might not make the debate. They might not have enough support in this crowded field. So with the Republican vote, 48% are supporting Hilton, 40% for Bianco. And that is post the Trump endorsement. So Hilton, a little bit of an advantage here, but it's not significant yet. With independents, 16% are going for Steyer, 15 for Hilton, 14 Bianco, and 10 for Porter. And with the gender and the age breakdown, again, it's just such a crowded field. It's hard to really stand out when you've got multiple candidates between 10 and 20%. So the most important issue facing the state here is the economy. It's at 41%. So this poll does not talk about Newsom's approval rating. It doesn't talk about Trump's. It did have a 1,000 vote sample size, and the partisan breakdown was 50% Dem, a little over a quarter Republican, and a little under a quarter Independent. So let's finish it up here on Poly Market and see what we've got. Right now, 66% think Tom Steyer is going to be the next governor. Now, he shot way, way up since Swalwell dropped out. I think 66 might be a little bit too high, especially when this race is completely fluid. So again, at that next debate, we'll see if everybody goes after Steyer. Meanwhile, Matt Mahan is at 8%, tied with Katie Porter. Javier Becerra is at 9. Steve Hilton, the Republican, is at 5. So it looks pretty unlikely there for the Republicans. But what about in the top two? Well, we've got Steve Hilton is at a 78% chance to advance, along with Tom Steyer. Both those two have a commanding lead, and if the election were held right now, it looks like those two would face off in the general. If that happened, of course, any Democrat is going to be heavily favored. It's California. But every once in a while, voters of pretty much any state might be in the mood for a little bit of change in some of their statewide politics. Of course, Republicans would have a better chance here if Harris were in the White House. With Trump in there, I don't think most people are going to take the Republicans too seriously. But a lot of times, elections that end up competitive didn't start out that way. So we'll see if anything happens here. Ton of interesting dynamics and different candidates. But let me know in the comments, what do you think about the state of this race for governor in California? Is it going to be Tom Steyer? What about the Republicans? What's going to happen at that next debate? Is Becerra going to make an impact? Is Porter finished? How about Mahan and Bianco? And what about this primary system? Let me know what you think down below on your way out. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join if you'd like to support the channel. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.